And we're going to start with the British heavyweight blockbuster between David Haye and Tyson Fury. The fight will officially be announced at a press conference tomorrow. We'll hear from both boxers then. It'll take place at the Manchester Arena on September the 28th. So good evening to you, Mike. We've had Froch against Kessler, and this is another huge event in the making.
Yes, it is. Good evening, Russell. We've had so many big fights in the UK down the years, but in terms of all British affairs, in particular across the past couple of decades, there haven't been that many more explosive, potentially volatile than this one. David Haye hasn't fought since beating Derek Chisora in a similarly charged fight a year ago this weekend, and he's been frustrated in his attempts to persuade the Klitschko brothers to defend their titles against him, so he's switched his focus to the domestic scene and to Tyson Fury, who's lesser known, 7 years younger at 25 and unbeaten in 21 fights as a pro. He's also beaten Chisora, and he's given up on the chance to fight in a world title eliminator to take on Haye instead. They are, without question, the two most controversial characters in British boxing. They're both expected to earn deep into seven figures. And you never know with heavyweight boxing, but this could be special.
Steve, would you expect this to really capture the imagination of fight fans?
Yeah, it's not an ideal time because, you know, if they announce it tomorrow, people start going on holiday for 6 weeks, the school holidays. But once it kicks in, it'll be a slow ball. Once it kicks in September, I think we're leading into a fight that will break all known British box office records. I think it will sell out quicker than any other fight, including Mike Tyson fighting at the same arena back in 2000. I know it will generate more money than any other fight that's taken place on British soil. And by the time we get to the first and second and third weeks in September, it will do the strangest of things. It will be a back page story. This has the potential to be like the great heavyweight fights from the 70s involving Henry Cooper and Joe Bugner, the type of fight that stopped the nation for 4 or 5 days. We had that briefly with Eubank and Ben and Watson back in the early 90s. This fight will happen. That's because, as Mike said, they are, and the key word he used, and it's a word I've used in tomorrow's Independent, volatile. They are volatile characters. They're also 6'9", 6'3", and they knock people out. It's a beautiful cocktail.
Well, all that will be music to the ears of Mick Hennessy, who promotes Tyson Fury. Good evening, Mick.
Good evening, gents.
Why has it taken so long to finally get this fight sorted?
Well, you know, it's both fighters were on a different path, basically. So, I mean, it was only when you know, David Haye basically had a hand injury and pulled out of his last fight that you know, that obviously got us thinking before we went into the after the Cunningham fight. I think it was even before or after, but. Tyson always wanted the Haye fight, and obviously that didn't become a reality until he did what he did to Steve Cunningham in the US, and of course, you know, once Haye pulled out of his fight, you know, there was a small window of opportunity. So from then on in, both camps had to, you know, resolve their situation. Was there going to be a postponement to Haye's fight? Were we going to go the Pulev route to fight Klitschko? Those situations had to be resolved, and then on top of that, you know, you've got two larger-than-life characters, two great fighters. Both of them know their worth. You know, both camps know the worth of this fight and believe in their fighter, you know, 1,000,000%. And you know, everything, you know, for a super fight like this, that, you know, it takes everything to another level. Things have to be done properly. The business side of things has to be done right, and you know, we had to dot the I's and cross the T's. And you know, it took a while, but we are where we are. It got done because it would be crazy if it never got done, to be fair.
And Mick, in manoeuvring Tyson into this particular fight, you've, as you said there, given up on a world title eliminator, which potentially could have left you one win away from a challenge for the world title. So why is this more attractive than potentially being very close to a world title shot? Quite
simple, really. This fight is bigger than both the Pulev final eliminator and a fight with Klitschko it put together. You know, David Haye versus Tyson Fury is a bigger fight than both of those fights. You know, it's as you said, it's a super fight. It's a mega fight. I agree with what Steve said. I think this can break all box office records, all you know, gates selling out quickly, you know, viewing figures, just everything. I think the whole show is set up to take everything to another level. The reaction, I mean, you know, we haven't formally announced anything properly. And the reaction for the last few weeks, I've never seen the likes of it. It's just beyond belief. I mean, just people that you'd never think in a million years would be talking about boxing are actually coming up and asking, is this fight happening? And it's exciting, to say the least.
Mike, you said there, Mickey, that the two boxers know their worth, as do you and Adam Booth. You know, you were both negotiating from opposite ends of the table. How close in the last 10 weeks, Mick, has this come to collapsing?
I would say potentially twice.
Okay.
No, there's you know, like you say, it's, you know, we believe that, you know, Tyson Fury's the most exciting young heavyweight on the planet, and he's earned his right to be in super fights, and he's unbeaten, and he's dangerous, and he's entertaining. But also, you know, the Haye camp have got that former world heavyweight champion strap. You know, he's dangerous. He can take you out with one shot. He's very, very charismatic, and you know, he's been on the celebrity circuit. He's a household name. So it's, you know, both sides fought hard to you know, to get the right situation, and you know, everyone needed to be happy, and that is the case now.
Mick, for a long time, the fight that was being touted was Tyson Fury against David Price, and we've seen what happened to Price at the weekend, beaten for the second time in a row and beaten badly for the second time in a row. He spoke in the build-up about how much pressure was on him and how he was almost surprised by the amount of attention and what he had to do as part of a big fight, which was only a tiny dimension of what Tyson's going to have to go through. Are you happy that he's ready for what's going to happen on the night, but what's going to happen between now and then as well? Is he ready for that?
Definitely, 100%. He's more ready than any other fighter out there, I believe. He's had a great learning curve since he turned pro. He hasn't, I'm sure you'll agree, he hasn't had it easy. He's had learning fights, hard fights. He's had to draw on his, you know, he's had gut checks on a regular basis where he's had to come through fights and learn the game. He's had every sort of style. And on top of that, he's been in every type of situation. He's been in very sort of, you know, explosive fights where there's been a lot of needle at press conferences. Nothing that's going to go to this level, but he is more than prepared, and he's very, very mature for his 25 years. I mean, his confidence, you know, since I turned Tyson pro in 2008, one thing that was never an issue, and that was even when he was out of shape, was his confidence. I mean, you know, I think everyone knows that. And you know, for me, it's been a case of having to sort of, you know, Tyson, if he could have done, he would have fought David Haye in his first year as a pro. So you know, it was for me to sort of, like, you know, calm them expectations down and get him the right fights and the right nurturing so that we could get to this point. And you know, Tyson's a great character and a great person, and he listens to common sense. And you know, that was a calculated risk for us at Madison Square Garden, a risk that I believed, you know, Tyson was going to do a job. And was going to come out and be a major star in world boxing, and which would be the springboard to putting him in super fights like this. And you know, he listened to that. He listened to me. He listened to Peter. Peter's absolutely turned his career around. His fitness, his everything technically, and he listened to the pair of us, and he is where he is now. He's got what he deserves. He deserves to be in super fights.
But what if he loses this fight, Mick? You've carefully crafted this unbeaten record. You say he's only 25 years of age, but there could be serious repercussions, couldn't there, for the sort of fights he can attract after this?
Well, look, I would say no, because I mean, first and foremost, I believe in Tyson. I've believed in him from day one, and I believe in him even more so now that he's got Peter with him 24/7, looking after him, training. I believe in him in a big way, and I believe he's going to do a job in this fight. Otherwise, we wouldn't be taking this fight. But all I would say, I know it's heavyweight boxing, and everyone will always say anything can happen, and that's true. But Tyson's only just turned 25. He's doing things at a young age. He he can do whatever he wants in this sport. And sometimes, like David Haye, it's the losses that make the fighter sometimes. I mean, I watched him in the amateurs with Jim Twight, and I also see the Cole Thompson stoppage. And it seems like, them sort of losses spurred David on. He became a better fighter for that. That's what drove him. And, after the Klitschko situation, you then get the Derek Chisora finish, which was a brilliant finish. So, losses, if you're an entertaining fighter and a gutsy fighter and you lay everything on the table, the sky's the limit. I mean, let's not forget, Vladimir Klitschko's been flattened a couple of times, So it's heavyweight boxing, and Tyson is the best entertainer in heavyweight boxing. So I believe he's going to knock David Haye out, but whatever happens, this kid's a star.
Mick, you've mentioned a couple of times there Peter Fury, his uncle who's been training him now, and you say has made so much of a difference. In the weeks that this has been bubbling under, there's been lots of talk on forums about how it might go, and those who fancy Haye are talking about how he throws a decent right hand and how Tyson, in turn, is open to a right hand over the top. How much do you fear that?
I don't, because I understand. I understand exactly what you're saying, and it's the thing to observe. But I know that when Tyson switched on, he's got a great boxing brain. He's got great reflexes. He can have it any which way, Tyson. Any which way. He can box. He can fight. He can punch. He can go into the trenches. He can have it any which way. He's had those experiences, and I just know that he's a smart kid. He got caught up in everything out in Madison Square Garden. He didn't have Peter with him. That was a very unfortunate situation. And he basically, he does what Tyson sometimes does. He likes to fight. But he got the job done, and he got it done in style in the end. And it's just, I know that he can look like $10 million against David Haye. I know he can. What's underestimated about Tyson Fury is he's got a great boxing brain as well.
And Mick, I know you're looking for the best interests of your business and the business of Tyson Fury and James DeGale and the others in your charge, but how big, how important is this fight, do you think, for British boxing as a whole?
I think it means the world to British boxing, because it's, we got the biggest and most exciting heavyweight fight on the planet in the UK. It's a domestic blockbuster, but it's the best fight, bar none. And it's just, the heavyweights is it's almost like another sport in terms of boxing. And when you get heavyweight boxing right, and you get it right in this country, there's nothing compares. There absolutely nothing compares. It can blow any sporting event away, and that's what this fight means. And it's going to do it, because we got two gunslingers going head to head here. Two fighters that love to knock people out, that love to go in the trenches when they have to. It's just got the makings of the fight of the last 2 decades for me, at least.
Thanks for your time, Mick, and look forward to seeing you at the press conference tomorrow then.
Thanks, Micko.
Good night, gents.
So what do you both think then? David Haye starts clear favourite. Does he still have the desire, the hunger for it?
He has the hunger, and he has the desire for fame, and he has the hunger and the desire for money. And David Haye, genuinely, hand on heart, would pass every single lie detector known to man. He thinks this is an easy fight. David Haye possibly wouldn't even have this in his top 5 difficult fights. I mean, I'm telling you now, he genuinely thinks this is an easy fight. When they threw out the challenge to Tyson Fury after he beat Steve Cunningham, which was a brilliant win by Fury back in April, when they threw out the challenge, it was half a joke. At that time, they'd already signed and agreed to fight a guy from Lebanon, Beirut, Germany, called Manny Char in June. In Manchester, which wasn't selling, so David Haye conveniently got a hand injury. When they threw out the challenge, they did it as a joke because they realised it could sell. They realised that Tyson Fury, who loves Twitter, would generate some publicity, which he has inside the boxing business. He's enormous. Okay, that's why they did it. They didn't do it as a challenge. They knew it was a way to make the type of money they're going to make. They will not, until, I don't know when, at what point in the build-up or maybe in the fight, will they take Tyson Fury seriously, because then the odds will look stupid. Because I think, and I'm really intrigued to hear what Mike says, I think this is a much more difficult fight than Haye and most boxing fans think.
Yes, I think the dimensions of Tyson Fury are really important here and how he uses them, because it was interesting looking at the fight again today as I did against Vladimir Klitschko. Now, I know Klitschko was vastly more experienced and had more ability at that stage as well when they fought 2 years ago in Hamburg. But it was interesting to watch how difficult Haye found it at times to get close to Klitschko. And, you know, Klitschko for many years was slow on his feet. And that's an area that Tyson Fury has improved on in the last year or so. So it will be fascinating. But I think one of the dangers, as far as the Fury camp are concerned, is that they might feel that Haye, because he keeps saying it, is only a cruiserweight. But I think he has grown into the heavyweight division. He took some very heavy right hands from Vladimir Klitschko and didn't go down. And I was watching also today Haye's fight against Chisora this time last year. And just before he stopped Chisora in the 5th round, there were a couple of moments when he got hold of Chisora and basically manhandled him and bundled him around the ring. And that was really interesting to see that he was, you know, he was the stronger of the two. And if it wasn't just strength, it was technique as well in how to hold a man and bundle him around the ring. And I thought that was really interesting. So Haye is now, I feel, a genuine heavyweight. But even so, he is some way smaller than Tyson Fury. And I think the key to the fight is how Fury uses that bulk to combat Haye's speed and greater experience.
Do you not also still think, Mike, despite what Mick says there and despite the calming influence of Peter Fury, there is a certain eccentricity, a certain lunacy, if you like, attached to Tyson Fury? He has let his heart rule his head, not just in the last fight with Cunningham, where his uncle Peter wasn't in his corner, but in other fights. You know, he's been on the floor twice. He's been hurt 3 or 4 times. He's had 12-round fights. He's had a fantastic 2 years of learning experiences.
What's interesting, Steve, he does recover very quickly.
Unbelievable, Mike, for a 6'9" guy.
Yeah, he recovers really quickly. So that's what will make it interesting. I mean, you can see him going down, but he does recover quickly. And if you know, if he can make Haye punch often in the belief that he's going to get rid of him early on, then maybe it'll get interesting. But I think the reputation that Haye's got as somebody who blows up and can't last into the later rounds, I think that's misguided as well.
Mike, I think the fight we're looking at here for a comparison isn't necessarily a Cunningham fight, although Haye's dimensions are similar in many ways to Cunningham, as is his background as a cruiserweight. And I don't think it's Haye against Klitschko. I think, if anything, it could end up being Haye against Valuev, a fight that we saw. Although I know that Tyson Fury is a lot faster than Valuev, but that Haye, that's a very difficult Haye, even now 3 years on, for any version of Tyson Fury to beat.
Yes, it is. And also against Chisora last year, Stephen. And, you know, you could say that Chisora is at the similar level to Tyson Fury, even though Fury has beaten him. You know, it wasn't a landslide, although it was comfortable enough. It was interesting how Haye was seeing Chisora's punches coming so early and was finding a way to make Chisora miss quite comfortably. I mean, he is very, very agile for a heavyweight. He's got the reflexes of a middleweight and he can make his opponents miss. And I think that's one of the strengths of his game. And you know, if Tyson Fury starts to get a bit frustrated again, that could be one of the keys, one of many imponderables in the fight, I think. And that's potentially what makes it so special. But one of the fears I have, Steve, is about the set piece occasions, the press conferences and the weigh-ins and the like, and how it could just explode and you know, potentially we don't even see the fight at all. You know, thinking back to Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson,
sure.
And of course Haye and Chisora, which some people say cynically was the reason the fight happened anyway. But you know, I just have fears that if it should explode at press conferences, then there will be a will to make sure the fight doesn't happen.
Well, let's hope it doesn't. But let me take you back, Mike, not to the night in Munich when David Haye and Del Boy Chisora were rolling around on the floor after Vitali had beaten Chisora in a world title fight. Let me take you back to that series of press conferences and also to the weigh-in when that metal grid was up, when David Haye arrived with all of his MMA Eastern European bodyguards and Del Boy arrived with all of his Cockney Spiv bodyguards, and it was a beautiful contrast of cultures. Mike, there's one thing that we forgot to mention. It was pantomime. Every single press conference was pantomime, with a metal grill down the middle that wouldn't keep out a chicken if it decided to fly through it, if you remember rightly. Yeah. And yet somehow it kept out about 70 stone of muscle. They didn't need anything to be kept apart. And let's just hope when these guys come together tomorrow at David Haye's hotel, by the way, so Tyson's going straight into the Lions Den. Let's just hope we have a pantomime building up to stuff that just turns a bit edgy in the week before. That's what I'm hoping for.
And Mike, when it comes to the fight, listening to what both of you are saying, it doesn't sound great for Tyson Fury. How much of a chance is there that he could beat David Haye, do you think?
Oh, I think there is a strong chance. I mean, he's a huge heavyweight. He's unbeaten in 21 fights. He was a national amateur champion, won the ABA title. So there's a strong pedigree there. And naturally, he's a lot bigger than David Haye. And he is incredibly game. He's incredibly confident. He cannot see a way for David Haye to beat him. He has this robust confidence that just cannot be shaken. And that's a really prized asset in a fighter, and it makes him very dangerous.
It's absolutely true. Tyson Fury thinks, as I said about David Haye, that it's an easy fight for him. Frank Maloney said something very interesting. Frank Maloney looked after Lennox Lewis, said something, and is in charge of David Price. He said something very interesting about Tyson Fury the other week when I was talking to him. He said he's got the biggest heart he's ever seen in boxing at any weight. And he said it doesn't matter what you do, he will get up unless he's out cold, which of course against Haye is a possibility.
They are both world-ranked, charismatic and dangerous, according to a press release I saw earlier. Expect the language to get a bit spicier tomorrow when they come head-to-head.